And we should be done now. All right. Hello, everybody. I am HP Holo / Edie Skye, and I write books. I also interview other people who write books. And today I am here with, I actually forgot to ask you how to pronounce your name before the show, David Badurina?
I'm going to have you pronounce it backwards because of my screen and see if you can figure that one out. But
and
yes, you nailed it.
You did. I don't even. Don't worry about it.
Like,
anyway,
whatever you come up with, I've been called worse. It's okay.
We'll just make up pronunciations tonight. Anyway, yes. David Badurina, author of Space Pew Pew, amongst other things, but Space Pew Pew is what we're here to talk about tonight because, oh my gosh, it's my new favorite thing for real. First, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, what all have you written, author background, bio, all the fun stuff. Have at it.
Oh gosh. All right. This is like the pressure. Everybody go around the room and introduce yourself. Like that's my worst nightmare. Okay. So yes, my name is David. I write stuff. I am based in lovely New Hampshire, which means that everything is really far away and nothing is convenient. I write urban fantasy. I write speculative fiction. And decided to just kind of lean into the humor thing more recently because that's like my comfort area. So I'm not fighting it anymore. I'm like, no matter what, if I try to write something serious, it just has stupid gags in it. So I'm like, I got to lean into it. So that's me. That's a little bit about me. I don't know what else. I like chocolate.
Chocolate's
right?
Cool?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there you go.
Talking about snacks.
I'm wearing my. This is pretty much like the vibe of me all the time.
Yes, you know? I can already tell from your shirt alone. It's going to be a fun panel. I have worn my favorite today.
You're very serious, Goose. Yes.
I'm not serious. But we've already got people in the chat. So hello, people. T-Rock.
Hello. Just here for the penis. Oh, man.
And then it's Philip. Hi, Philip. He says, that guy.
Hey, Philip. Right.
So first off, before we start anything, I have to compliment you on your marketing for Space Pew Pew because here's the thing. So I ascribe to what I call the hell yeah school of marketing, which is I want to encounter something. When I'm looking for books, I want to encounter something that makes me go hell yeah in 5 words or less.
Sure.
And I don't even think I visited your table at LibertyCon because I was in a hurry to get everywhere.
Yeah.
But I remember walking past the author's alley and from across the hall, just like this heavenly beacon shone down upon a banner that said Space Pew Pew. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. But that's one of the things that I like in 3 words. And then I went to a panel and promptly forgot about it. But then I came across one of your bookmarks, which says my favorite gas giant is your mom. And then picked it up and that was all I needed to have sudden interest in Space Pew Pew. So congratulations, you have won the marketing.
Look, man, that whole like, it's funny. Like you ascribe to the hell yeah kind of marketing thing. I'm more just like, no matter how stupid I think the idea is, like I gotta try. Like I have to try, you know? And so, I mean, you've seen on, like I've been churning out memes for, like, that's my marketing is just like, Boromir memes. Like really are we like is it 2005 still or something, but like I don't know. So yeah, I do that actually, it's funny, last year, because I still have people talking about my marketing from last year where I had for my other book, The Caretaker, I had poker chips done. And because there's a casino in the book and on the back of the poker chip was a QR code to the book. And so I was able to just kind of flip poker chips to people. This year I was like, everybody does bookmarks. I have to do something with the bookmarks that's going to get people to want the bookmarks. And sure enough, those little round tables on each end of Author's Alley.
Yep.
I'd put a stack of 10 on there. I'd walk away. I'd come back 15 minutes later, gone.
It absolutely worked.
Yeah. No, I got 150 of them out at LibertyCon. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing, man. It's hard to market as an author, and you have nailed it. And I really like the point you made too about just trying every dumb thing because I love writing, but I love marketing just as much. Like I'm one of the few authors where marketing is my hobby. And a lot of times, like 90% of marketing fails. It's like that 10% that works really well. Right. And whenever I do experiments, I always find that my most successful stuff is the stuff where I have reached the screw it, let's try whatever point.
Yeah.
That stuff is always what wins.
Right.
And it also has been echoed in my career too, because, I tried to do serious, like, intelligent writing at one point, and every single time I have made a screw it, let's do this dumb thing decision,
Yes.
I have had career success.
Oh, see, there you go.
I don't know why it happens, but it's like my biggest bestseller happened because I wrote it as a joke. Like, I'm not even
There you go.
And that is so you're in good company.
See, this is precise. This is the kind of this is the enabling that I need. I'm going to tell you right now, like that is exactly the enabling I need, because I do this thing where, like, I'll sit here and I'll worry. I'm like, oh man, should I really post this one? Like, I don't know. And then I'm like, ah, screw it. Like, hit it. Like, what's the worst? We're all going to be gone in like 100 years. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen, really? Like, I'm fine. You got one shot. Like, you might as well. So yeah, I try to do, I mean, if it's weird, if it's wacky, if it's wild, I love doing design. I know enough in Illustrator to be just like really dangerous. So like anything that I can come up with, to me, it's just like another creative outlet, really. Mm-hmm. When the words aren't going, like, I'll just sit there and do something stupid and it's all good.
Yeah, it's a completely different kind of, like, it's still creative, but it's a completely different kind that engages a different area of the brain. And I think that's one of the reasons why I find it fun too. Oh, we've got more comments. Jacqueline's Jungle says he's okay.
Okay, she's in the other room right now. Just that's my girl.
Alicia says hello. Oh, Philip says I still carry my poker chip with me.
See, there you go. Yep, I had a couple people come up to me this year, be like, "Hey, I still got your poker chip." So yep, that's a thing.
And then Jacqueline makes a good point. It's the same with content creation. You can spend hours on the video for it to flop, but the one you film on a whim goes viral. Yeah, always.
That stupid TikTok video where you're shaking your butt and holding something stupid up. That's the one that goes viral.
And then we have another one from Philip who says, because you embraced the redonkulous. Holo. He is right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. And speaking of which, to those who are my readers, if you loved the complete redonkulousness of Monster Punk Horizon, especially, I don't even know.
I like it. That's a new word. I'm going to use that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you liked Monster Punk Horizon, you should absolutely read Space Pew Pew, because I read the first 5 chapters this morning, and oh my gosh, the humor, it's absurd. It is absolutely wonderful. And I loved every, like, what's it, 70 pages? That's the first 5 chapters. I don't know. I loved it. I sped through it. I was it finished, but that sample finished. So I have contributed to the Kickstarter, so I look forward to getting my copy.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
But speaking of which, we should probably talk about the book at some point.
Sure.
So first off, all right. So I have my usual links that I'm going to put in the comments here. And as usual, oops, I just messed up my link. 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. So as usual, all this can be found in the show notes on YouTube, and where else do I stream? On Facebook. And then there's a separate listing on Twitter that has all this information in it. But David's running a Kickstarter for Space Pew Pew. It is fully funded, but we are authors and we like money. So it's got 2 days left. You can still contribute to it. I am popping the link in the comments. It is also in the show notes. Go give him all your money because it'll be worth it. But also, we are giving away a signed pack of Space Pew Pew trading cards.
This one right here. I'm holding it.
Oh, yes. Okay. And so I'm putting that in the chat as well. And go enter to win. I'll pick a winner after this is over, and then he'll put it in the mail for you. And
there they are.
So, yes, I love how many authors are doing trading cards now. I haven't gotten into it myself, but I kind of want to, just because I'm a trading card fiend. Like, I spend a stupid amount of money on little
things. I know. I love these things. They did really well. I had a lot of success with these at LibertyCon too, just from a marketing standpoint. So I can get into that too.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now let's talk about the book. Tell us about Space Pew Pew.
All right. So Space Pew Pew is basically my tribute to these great movies that I grew up on, like Spaceballs and Ice Pirates, later on Galaxy Quest. I usually cite those 3, but my influences are all over the map. So I love Monty Python. Just Airplane is like I have the movie memorized. Like, these are just, they're my comfort movies, I guess. And so, I mean, I don't know if you want like a history of this thing, or you're just like, I can be brief and give you like how this actually started, because again, this was sort of like, it was an accidental story kind of.
Oh yeah. How did Space Pew Pew happen is absolutely one of my questions, because the the vibe the story gives off is just like it has the vibe of something where a bunch of authors were sitting around a table at a con, and it was like 1 a.m. and everyone was really drunk, and you went, I'm gonna write a story about all these things that I love, and then you woke up in the morning and were like, whoa, I actually really like this idea, even sober. So
all right, you're not far off, right? You're not far off, but it wasn't a bunch of authors and I wasn't drunk. That's actually just my default. Like, I'm this ridiculous 100% of the time. So basically, I was on a site called, what the heck was it? It's one of the writing sites, Vocal, right? So I was on there, and just like, okay, at this point, I have to roll back just a little bit. At this point in my writing life, I was kind of I was in a bit of a depression. My brother had passed away. My dad had passed away. And all within the span of a few years, I finished my debut novel. And when that was over, that was the one piece of writing that I was able to obsess over. And when it was done and it was the end and then it was published, I didn't have that to obsess anymore. And there were a lot of things that I had to deal with that were just life oriented. So I wasn't having the best time. We'll just say it that way, but still just trying to do something. If I could sit down and write, I'd try to sit down and write. I was really trying to force myself to do so, which never works for me. So anyway, they had this prompt on Vocal, and it's just like they throw out a prompt and write a short story, and there's a chance to win like $500 or something like that. So I'm like, sure, no expectation to win anything. I just needed to get something out, right? And the prompt was, it's actually a line that's early in the book. I forget. I think it's somewhere in the first chapter, where it's, they say that in space, nobody can hear somebody scream.
Yes.
Right. And I'm like, okay, so they're setting up for, they're setting the table, a softball pitch for some kind of space horror thing. And then of course my Gen X, like nonconformist, anti-authority nature is like, I'll show them, right? Like, I'm going to make this the most stupid thing ever. Right. So,
yes.
Okay, so fine. Like, let's do this. I grew up on buddy movies, right? Buddy movies were like a huge thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what about a buddy movie that's just like a guy and his android in space? I don't want it as romantic as Firefly, even, not that that's all mm-hmm. romantic, but I just want like this odd couple dynamic. They're in this tin can in space forever. They kind of can't stand each other anymore, but they also can't live with one another. Like, they can't live without one another. So right. Like, let's explore that relationship. One of them is yearning for home without realizing that he's kind of like, he's made this his home. And, mm-hmm. and let's just kind of crank up the absurdity and have it just be a vehicle for all my stupid gags. So I write this short story, and I called it Alex and Toshiro Are Totally in Space, right? Because I'm very serious. So I do that. I post it. It gets like a couple likes, whatever. Like, obviously doesn't do anything in terms of like the contest. I'm not even like, it doesn't matter. But I wrote something and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Shelved it, forgot about it. Right? Just like, it's there. It's just one of my short story pieces. I've got other things that I want to work on or whatever else. So then, I don't know, maybe it was months later, I'm on Twitter, and somebody made a post and they said authors should never design their own book cover. To which I was like, I'll show you, right? So again, because of my Gen X nonconformist anti-authority nature, I'm like, let me make one of the most ridiculous book covers anybody will have ever seen, right? Like, so I did what any professional designer would do, and I went into MS Paint and I got a bunch of clip art.
Yes.
And I picked the worst color combinations possible. And actually, you know what? I can send it to you, just so you have like a little look of what I'm talking about.
Yes. Let me see if I can share this thing. Where are you sending it to me on?
I'm gonna go right through the Facebook Messenger, because I just have that up.
I don't know if I've seen this yet. I know I've seen different versions of the cover.
Yeah, we may have posted this one. It's one of the things we unlocked in the Kickstarter was to get the book with this cover. There you go. All right, you got
All
it.
right, let's see. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. This is one of the things I absolutely loved. All right.
All right.
Let me I always get distracted when share screen happens. So let's see here. All right. Why is it? There is always some kind of craziness that happens with this screen. All right.
Philip,
We're
you're
gonna
looking for a
continue
penis not
talking
made of chip
while,
chunk. That's funny.
while I figure this out.
Yeah. So I'll continue on. So anyway, I did that. I posted it and people are just like, lol, whatever. I'm like, I'm just being an idiot. Like I probably spent like, a half hour on it. Obviously it's magnificent, and then like, so when I wrote Alex and Toshiro are totally in space, and I was like, man, like I really enjoyed, right? Like I enjoyed sitting there in the ship with those characters. As weird as that might sound, like I was there, and there was a sort of comfort in writing their banter back and forth. And then I sat there and I looked at this cover, and I looked at that short story, and I looked at the cover, and I'm like, oh shoot, I think I need to write this.
Yes.
Like I think this needs to happen. That was about I would say like a month before LibertyCon last year, right? So I'm like, you know what? Let me do this, because the short story was different. It was a 5,000 word short story. Excuse me. So I wanted to like expand that a little bit, sort of flesh it out, and turn that short story into my first 3 chapters. So I finished the first chapter of it. I get to LibertyCon, and this would have been I've been to 3 LibertyCons. This would have been my second one, right, last year. And I was promoting my debut novel, The Caretaker, because that one is still just kind of cooking, and like that's a big project for me. And so I'm sitting, there's the cover. Yeah. Look at behold how beautiful, right? Like this is like my ugly baby that I love so much.
Too much alien is what gets me.
And I wanted to keep the author name here just for like that wasn't a placeholder. That was intentional.
Yes. I love everything about this cover. You should absolutely do an edition with this cover.
That's exactly hardcover, like foil,
Yes. Collector's edition.
Exactly this. Yes. This book cost me $400 and I have one, but it's worth it. So anyway, I go to LibertyCon and I'm with Philip in the reading room, and nobody knows me. Like nobody knows I write anything. The LibertyCon before, I was just there to just kind of get a feel for it, hit some panels, see what's what. There was no author's alley. I wasn't on any kind of panel. My brother lives in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, so it's an opportunity to see him and hang out too. But last year I was like, all right, let me try and do a little bit. Let me get a table at Author's Alley, get a few copies of The Caretaker out. That is not one of the trading cards, but that is a brilliant idea.
It should be.
Oh yeah, it might have to be. All right. Yeah, I may have to work on that one. That's a good idea. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So anyway, I go ahead and I'm like, let me do the reading room. And they're like, you're reading with Philip Booker. Okay, great. So I go in there, Philip's in there, and there's my fiance was in there and 3 other women that I didn't recognize, and Philip sitting next to me. And he's like, why don't you go first? I was like, oh shoot. Okay. Sure. Why not? Right. There's 4 other people in this room. So I read a chapter of The Caretaker. Everybody loved it. It was great. That's a bit of a heavier book, right? It's urban fantasy. It's a little bit more serious. There were some things that I was working through when I was writing that book, but it is very near and dear to my heart. And so he's like, we got time. Like, what else do you want to read? And I'm like, well, like it's kind of ready. Like I haven't really edited it, but like, sure, let me read you the first chapter of Space Pew Pew. So I go ahead and I start reading it. They start laughing. And by the end of it, Jenny, who was there, was like, I'm texting Hillbilly right now. She's like, we're all like ravens. We're all 3 ravens. And she's like, I'm texting him like, as you're reading the story, like you've got to meet the Space Pew Pew guy. Right. So then turns out and like Jackie shoved me in front of a hillbilly earlier, like in that con, she knew. She's like, he's got a sense of humor that's just like yours. Like, you need to talk to him. And I'm like, well, I'm an introvert, so I'm not going to, but thanks for the thought, So eventually I did. And I met up with him like at one of he was having like the room parties. Yes. Yeah. Philip,
Yep.
I think I ran from the reading room to find him and told me I have to meet this guy. So I talked to Hillbilly at one of the room parties that were upstairs, and he's like, let's have a talk. He's like, oh, you're the pew pew guy. Okay. And he's like, let's talk when alcohol's not involved, because there was mead everywhere, right? He brought all the mead.
Of course.
Yeah, I know, naturally. So then it was the next morning at the coffee clutch, and I sat down with him, and he's like, all right, pitch it to me. And I'm like, buddy movie in space, Spaceballs, Galaxy Quest, Red Dwarf, Ice Pirates. And he's like, I love it. Send it to me. He's like, how far along is it? And I'm like, it's still in the womb, and it's going to be a while until it gets out. So I don't write it particularly fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on it. I sent it to him. And, this was a few months back where I finally got the whole thing to him. And this whole time I was determined. I'm like, you know what? I am not going to do beta readers for this project. I don't want anybody really seeing this.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to do it and have it be authentically me and hand it to him and just let the chips fall where they may. So sure enough, he sends me a message and he's like, let's have a phone call and make sure Jackie's around too. My fiance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right. So we get on a video call through Discord, and he's like, first of all, and he's talking to Jackie, and he's like, I'm sorry for whatever you have to deal with him. He's like, I apologize. Like, just out of nowhere. And he said, second, where's the second book? And third, we're doing a Kickstarter. And I was like, okay, like, this is good. And sure enough, like he told me later, he's like, this is one of the cleanest manuscripts I've ever received.
Ooh,
and
nice.
Then when I went through and I was looking at his edits as he was editing it up, like a lot of the edits were just like, I hate you right now, or like, I can't drink anything when I'm reading this, it was like stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm totally okay with that.
Those are good edits.
Those are good. Those are the best edits. Yeah, for sure. There's some things I had to clean up, twist, adjust, or whatever else, but like, that's normal. So anyway, that was just sort of the genesis of it all. And then this past LibertyCon, I was determined to get more than 3 people in that reading room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was literally my only goal. And I didn't care what I had to do. I don't want to sell anything. I don't need to make any money. I just wanted butts in seats. That was it. So I was like, all right, I did 2 things. First,
I feel like I should be taking notes.
You see, you're gonna get here's the wacky, like, chaos marketing that I do, right? So the first was creating the trading cards, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, let me do one for my characters, for all of them. On the back, it's got funny stuff about them and everything else. I did an author card for me. That's the one that I can sign. I even have Jacques Starblazer. You didn't meet in the chapters that you went through, but you will. I think there's a reference. There's a reference to him.
I'm looking forward to this character.
Yeah. He's just sort of this. He's just sort of a thing, right? And that's a whole nother story of inspiration involving Engelbert Humperdinck and my mom. So, like,
we're gonna have to hear this story now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get there. There's a lot going on with this book. But the next thing I did is I printed up invitations, right? And so they were these. Ooh. And they're just like a postcard size, right? Glossy one side, matte the other side. And on the invitation, it just says, greetings. Do you want a free autograph set of Space Pew Pew trading cards? Attend the reading of this hilarious new novel, and they're all yours. And then I have the M. Carter reading room, 7:00 p.m. Saturday, right?
Brilliant.
And then I had like a couple things, and then a QR code. And if you went to the QR code, it went to my link in bio. The first thing on there was a link to set a calendar reminder on your phone that I was reading.
Oh.
Because people forget. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, you can get this, you can scan it, you can take one of these, like, it's all good. I printed up 50 of these. I had like 3 left maybe. So I was handing these out a lot, and on the back, it's basically the back cover of the book, right? Which is backwards here, but that's fine. Which gives you just like kind of the breakdown of the book. There's a coffee stain. That's important. You know why, right? There's drugs on there. There's booze on there. There's alien. And then there's this guy who you didn't meet yet, but you will, and you're going to love him. So I was like, all right. And I show people the trading cards and everything else. I'm like, come to the reading room. This is really going to be like, this is going to be a special moment. Like, we're going to have a moment together, come hang out with me. And it was at a best time, 7 p.m. Saturday. Not everybody's drunk, and karaoke hadn't started.
It's like, so right, like that magic hour.
It really was like the best time slot ever. And I had 2 Authors Alley sessions before that. So like even better. I had a chance to that was all I was doing at Authors Alley. I didn't have a book. I was just sitting there with this stupid poster that's like back there and the trading cards, and everybody's like, is this a game? And I'm like, if you want it to be, like, sure. Like, but you should come listen to me read. So I go up there. We had like 30 people in the room.
Oh my gosh.
Packed.
That's awesome.
Yep. Butts in seats. And so she even came in, it was, I think Sarah Erickson came in afterwards because she was doing the room count, and she's like, how did you get a full room? And I'm like, well,
yeah, that's spectacular.
I think I handed out like close to 30 packs of cards in that. I had them all. They were all signed, all ready to go. I'm like, you guys, you earned them. Like, you get here, you get to listen to me, you get to listen to Philip. We're having a great time together. I gave Philip some whiskey right before we started. Like, we're doing it. Like, we're gonna run with this. And they were rolling. Like, I read chapter 13, which was like particularly just really heavy on like the wrong way to woo the girl jokes, like, I guess. So
I'm super excited.
Yeah. Like, chapter 13 was the one I'm like, it's not like a ton of story in there, but it's really fun. The Monopoly chapter. Yeah, that's the one.
The Monopoly chapter.
Yeah, he goes on a whole rant about Monopoly and the whole thing. So anyway, I did that. Everybody loves it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, now Iron is hot. Let's launch the Kickstarter. Let's do that. Let's get that going. And then here we are, 300 and whatever % funded. And all sorts of cool merch that I was able. My cat's meowing in the background, if you can hear. All sorts of merch ready to be created and all that kind of stuff. Like, so I'm like, whatever. I got to lean into this. This is humor. This is what I do, and off it goes. And like, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's something particularly magical about LibertyCon too, because
there really is.
Who are watching who don't know about LibertyCon, LibertyCon is an uncommon convention in that it has just about as many readers in attendance as it does authors. There's a really, really heavy concentration of authors, and everybody gets to hang out together, and everybody, it is primarily a literary convention. And the reason I bring it up is because as you were speaking, I just remembered that my big bestseller, Titan Mage, happened to really take off because I launched it LibertyCon weekend. There were a number of different reasons for why it took off, but it was a new book and a new genre for me, and I made a little sandwich board that I carried around that basically helped me earn my orange tag, and I had a QR code leading back on it. And within a few hours of LibertyCon starting, I had reached #1 in my little subgenre. I mean, it's a perfect audience for doing those kinds of launches if you set everything up correctly. And it's just, LibertyCon is a magical little con.
It is. I was at Imaginarium a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I had a very good time. Panels were great. It was definitely very different. And like, I'm sitting there trying to identify, like, what is the, like, LibertyCon feels like family, really. Like, you're seeing these people, my first one, I'm sitting down next to this guy and I have no idea who he is, right? I just know he's an author and he was on a panel, and he was just sitting like quietly right up by like the piano area in the mezzanine, right? And so I just sit down and we start talking and everything else about writing, whatever else. And I'm having like a 20-minute conversation, hilarious conversation. We're going back and forth. I was showing him some of the stuff I got. What do you do? Et cetera, et cetera. It's Terry Maggart, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, since that moment, like I'm like, all right, cool. Like, so I get home, I follow him on Twitter, everything. We're exchanging messages once in a while and stuff like that. And then I see him last year, and he comes by and he's like, oh, like you got he's like, the poker chip. He's like, what the hell is this? Like, how freaking cool, like he's like, you're gonna see more poker chips now because you're doing something people aren't doing, and they're gonna take notice. And then this past year, I go, so did you see the other bookmarks?
I don't think I did.
Okay, well, I'm going to introduce you to the other bookmarks, right? Because I handed him these three, and he was like, "Oh my god, like what are you doing?" Right? So that's the one that you've got, right? The favorite gas giant is your mom, right? I'm going to have to read these, which is really terrible because they're backwards on screen, but it's fine. The next one is, are you a space pirate because that booty is out of this world? Right? Which my fiance Jacqueline handed to some old guy and got him to blush on that one. That was pretty funny, actually. Yeah, that was good. The last one, and I'm really sorry for saying this out loud on your stream, but it's are you the singularity because I can't stop coming into your black hole, right? So
perfectly fine. Like as Edie Skye, I write smut. So
right, you get it.
I know the stuff.
But I'm like, I need to, like everybody has bookmarks. Like there's bookmarks everywhere. Like I want the bookmarks that people are just like, holy crap. Like I need to get a copy of that. So I hand it like, and I was talking to Terry just like in passing at this last one, and I hand him the bookmarks. He's like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, like so that's the right reaction that I'm getting out of somebody like who also writes stuff that, is like kind of like on the fringe in some cases. But yeah, LibertyCon is just, it's wild. It feels like home. We love Chattanooga and just like running around there. Just like with the food, the vibe, everything. It's like, I can't wait for those tickets to go on sale, even though I was just there a couple of weeks ago and I snatched them up like in the first 10 minutes. I was at Imaginarium on a panel, like buying tickets.
I usually set a timer, and I didn't this year because we have an actual family reunion that overlaps with LibertyCon next year.
No, yeah.
So it's like I'm gonna miss the nerd family reunion.
Yeah.
But luckily, I like my family.
It'll make next year even more special.
Yes, it will. Yeah. So let's talk about the Kickstarter now, because you've got a whole bunch of cool stuff going on. So unless you have more to talk about with the book, which I mean, of course you do, but we got plenty of time. Kickstarter. Let's get people giving you money. So talk about some of the reward tiers and whatnot we have going on.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So with this, like I sat down with Hillbilly and I'm like, all right, well, we got to do some like weird stuff, right? Like we got to do some like wacky things. And so I'm like, okay, like Jacques Starblazer poster, like that has to be a thing. So in the book, he is the character that's he's the intergalactic pop star, right? He's kind of at that stage of his career where people are questioning whether he's washed up or not. He's been in rehab for whatever kind of space drugs he's been taking, that kind of stuff. And like I literally went for Engelbert Humperdinck in space. My mom used to have his 8 tracks, right? She had a pile of 8-track Engelbert Humperdinck, music. And I'm looking, and like, even as a little kid, I'm like, this guy's really corny. Like, this is really corny. And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, this is like perfect. That's the perfect vibe, right? Like, like a little bit of like a Liberace kind of like Engelbert, just like whatever crooner, and of course you would have diehard fans and people that are like, this is just ear garbage. Like, why are you listening to this? So I'm like, great. So I'm like, I know I need him as a character. So I threw him in. So I made I did this like a while ago. I made a mock album cover, like CD cover.
Yes.
And I've got the front and the back with like a track listing of like his, Naughty Little Nebula is one of the songs, this kind of stuff. And the album is live in Uranus, obviously. Because like what else would it be? And then I have a little thing on the bottom, like it's available in ancient Terran, which is what we're speaking right now, or Euclidian, right, which is one of the languages that'll be around in there, which is just really stupid. I made up on the spot. So I'm like, all right, let me like do this. And then like I put in just like Alex, the main character, his obsession with Jacques Starblazer just like takes over, you know, with him like all the time. He like fangirls anytime there's something about him and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I did like a poster for that, and then somebody actually asked me, they're like, you know, I really want a poster for your space capybara, Boom Boom Der Supernova, and I'm like, sure. So like, this is one of the things I want to make sure people know is like, if there's a poster or like a thing that you want, I'm just gonna make it, because for me this is like joyous,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And somebody that's interested enough to be like, hey, I want a poster of your violent space capybara, like you damn well, like I'm gonna drop everything and make that for you right now.
I do the
You know?
exact same thing. Like
Yep.
one of my favorite things about I have a direct shop now with Shopify with all sorts of apps that I can do to make or that I can use to make print on demand stuff. And
Nice.
oh my gosh, if someone asks me for a random thing, sometimes it may take me a month to make it just because of writing, but it's like I love doing that kind of stuff.
Right. Oh yeah, no, I have a blast in Illustrator and like Photoshop and everything. Like I do all the things. So like I'm good with that. So we've got the trading cards. I think the trading cards were unlocked, and I created a hillbilly card too. He's like, make one for me. I was like, all right. All I had was that picture of him with his head cut off, so I have squirrels coming out of his head, you know,
Accurate.
because that's like his vibe. Yeah, welcome to being a pantser.
78 says, which is just really stupid and what I made up on the spot. Welcome to being
I
a
don't no, I don't consider myself a pantser, but like that maybe sure. Okay. I am like guilty as
pantser
charged.
spirit in there. We can talk about writing technique too if we have time.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to for sure. So anyway, we've got that. We've unlocked Tuckerizations, we've unlocked fictionalize your scenario, which like I would love to get somebody in on that to give me something super challenging. You know, just like space penguins in like a school bus, you know, and like some kind of confrontation. Like I am down for whatever, and I will work it in the book and it'll make sense.
Phillips is 3D printed Toshiro.
Around the thimble.
We had a great suggestion earlier. Oh, where'd it go? There's another comment. I
Where's
vote
the card?
Teams themed character in the sequel from
Oh,
Teams.
nice.
Yes.
There you go.
Teams 2.
Aye. So anyway, we got those unlocked. We've got I will be recording the audiobook. So that is all me. My studio is right actually back here. I'm also kind of like I enjoy, I've been doing YouTube for years. I'm really big, like I'm kind of like an audio nerd.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like good audio and everything else. So I've got my whole setup with my mixer board and my recorder and everything. And I love reading aloud. And especially like, you know, characters that I just love writing. So I'm really excited to record all of that. So everybody gets a copy of the audiobook. We unlocked all the 3 Raven stuff. We unlocked a weekend gaming session, which still has a couple seats available. I think there's a few people in it, which is basically like D&D. Hillbilly's going to be the DM, but we're doing it in the Puniverse, right? For Space Pew Pew. So I gotta go. That's what I'm calling it. So yeah, like, look out Marvel Cinematic, look out MCU, here comes the Puniverse, right? But I'm like, you know, I want to create some kind of scenario that we can get people going through and just have a blast kind of sitting on a Zoom call and gaming all weekend. So we've got that one. There's obviously like t-shirts and like all that kind of merch is like stickers and all that stuff is wrapped in as well. And then there was one that we had, and I'm like, you know, you need one for like if there's a whale walking around who's just got a couple grand in his pocket looking to spend on something really stupid. I'm hoping there's somebody like me, but like wealthy out there. And I'm like, okay, so it's the Puniverse trifecta, which means that like there's particular moments in the book that are noteworthy moments,
Mm-hmm.
right? One of them involves malt liquor and something called Edward 40 Hands. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, not yet.
Okay. Edward 40 Hands is a game, I guess, that was played. And basically you take 2 40-ounce malt liquors like Mad Dog 2020 or whatever. You duct tape them to your hands, right? Somebody else needs to help you out. And you're not allowed to get them off of there until they're done.
Uh-huh.
Right. So that's a lot. That is referenced in a particular scene in the book that's just I don't want to say anything more about it because you have to experience it. And then there's there's fighting and there's gunplay and stuff like that. It's space pew pew, so there's some of that. It might be an East Coast thing. Yeah, that's a good point. And then there's this running gag. You haven't met by chapter 5. You haven't met Leopold yet.
Mm-hmm.
Leopold is a mycelium based. He's a mushroom. He's an alien mushroom, right? So he's mycelium based, and he is sort of like, he's all about like drugs and just like altering biology, just like he's a mad scientist, really.
Uh-huh.
But he's also like deeply religious for their like stated religion, the mycelium, life forms.
Uh-huh.
They believe in something called the grand filament that just connects us all through space and time and everything else. And he has some moments where he has to talk to Alex about things to just like sort of calm him down a little bit. It is kind of like a nightmare. Yeah. Not wrong. So anyway, his thing is when Leopold is like ready to like offer some form of like body or mind altering drug to Alex for a specific purpose, he always says that there's just a chance that you could develop a second rectum. Like that's like always the side effect, right?
Gosh.
For anything that he does, it's always like, oh, hopefully this doesn't happen, or just like gastrointestinal, only a 33% chance you'll grow a second rectum. Yes. That is one of the lines in there. So anyway, we developed this one Kickstarter thing, and it was $5,000, right? The tallest tier, the biggest thing, fly you out to Knoxville. And then I needed something like, we'll have some Mad Dog, right? We'll have some malt liquor. We'll go to a range and get in all the shooting, rent the stuff and do all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I needed something that had to do with a second rectum. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy you Taco Bell.
Of all the crazy sentences that have been uttered on this podcast, that is the greatest and craziest.
I need something that involves a second rectum. Yeah.
Taco Bell is a good choice.
Right. So malt liquor, Taco Bell, and a gun range, but not in that order. Yeah, it's just really bad. So we really did unlock, we unlocked so many tiers and everything. And it was like sudden. Hillbilly launched it early. That was on him. Because we were sitting there on like a call and he was sharing his screen. He's like, all right, I just have to hit this button. But like the time was set to launch it right now.
Oh no.
Which was like 2 days early. And so we did. And then I'm like, oh crap. Like I got to go on. I got to post on everything. Like it just launched. So I did. And then I started getting these responses from everybody that was really funny. And they're like, this is so on brand for this book.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Like it works. It fit. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to run with it. I rescheduled all of my memes to get like sent out on all the things and everything. So there we are. Like there's a ton of stuff unlocked. And we just had a great time with it. I mean, that's really what it's about. So.
Oh yeah, like the entire experience of this Kickstarter has been fun. From reading the Kickstarter page to itself to seeing all your memes. Like I'm so pumped for the book, man.
I just really hope people like the book. They're not like, oh, this is crap.
Like I read through the first 5 chapters this morning, and the thing about it that I really enjoy is that yes, it moves at a slam bang hilarious pace, but it's a really fun read. Like it's really concentrated, and the humor does not stop. Like I eventually had to like go inside. I was laughing so hard at stuff because I read outside, and so my neighbors could just hear me blatting all over the
right with that.
But it's I started laughing. It did not stop for like 70 pages.
Yeah,
so it's a great read.
Oh, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. One of the compliments that Hillbilly had given me after he read it, he's like, look, I am dyslexic and I have ADHD and I read it in a weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'll take it. Like, that's fantastic. Like, I
didn't even think of it in these terms, but I have OCD and have really tremendous difficulty focusing. And it literally just occurred to me that I read all 70 pages in one sitting, which is not something I usually do. Like, I think the only other book that I've done that with recently, I think Shammy Stovall has one coming out that the Time Marked Warlock. Yeah, I was reading that one for her, and I read that one pretty quickly too. But I generally do not read fast at all. Yeah. So the fact that Space Pew Pew was something I could sit down and read and keep my attention on, that's a high compliment too.
I like to think that that's part of my writing style. I've actually had that compliment numerous times with my debut novel as well. And so people are
Nice.
like, I couldn't put it down. I read it in a weekend.
The
And I'm like, you
pacing.
know what? That's fine. Because all I want is I want people to have an escape,
Yeah.
with something goofy, something funny, just like, let's laugh together, for crying out loud. Everything is so serious right now,
Exactly.
so let's do this. And then I like, I'm happy and I get to dig in and write more on these characters. Like I'm going to have a blast.
Jacqueline says you've unlocked hyperfixation for us neurospices.
That's right.
All right. Well, I want to talk about writing because
Yeah.
you said you're not a pantser. Even though the book kind of has those crazy, chaotic pantser vibes. So I'm curious, what is your writing process?
Okay. So I have tried to be every writer. I'll start with that. I've tried to be the 1,000 words a day writer. I've tried to be the outline everything and map it all out writer. And I find that just one of the real struggles that I had was getting used to my creative process,
Mhm.
right? And forgiving myself for it not being what other people have as a creative process.
Mhm.
That was a big deal for me because there was a lot of imposter syndrome going on. There's a lot of just like, I'm not these people, and these people are churning out books and everything else. And so I found this sort of groove where it's like, I can be ready and I can sit down and I can go like on a Saturday to a coffee shop. I love writing in public.
Mhm.
It lets me, while I'm thinking about what's going on, I just like watch the world go by, with my ear canceling buds are in. I always have music going when I write. Um, so that's the first thing is like, I'll sit there and maybe 200 words will come out or maybe nothing will come out. And I've just had like a good coffee and like a little breakfast sandwich. And I'm like, okay, chalk it up. Like I'll try again in a couple days or whatever. And then some days I'll sit there and 6,000 words will just fall out of my head. Yep. Bleh, it's all out. But what I typically do is I'll map out, like, I'll jump. Like, let's say I'm working on a chapter 5, for instance, right? The first thing I do when I sit down and I'm ready to write is I go to chapter 4 and I reread it.
Mhm.
And I kind of read it with the read aloud voice, not just aloud, but like, I'm going through it. I'm looking at the cadence and I'll do some light editing as well. Like I do edit as I write, whatever. It's just what works for me.
Mhm.
So like I'll polish up chapter 4 and then I'm working on chapter 5 and I get it done. Chapter 5 is mapped out. I map out the beginning and the end. This is the beat where it starts.
Mhm.
And this is the beat that I need to hit in about 2,500 to 3,000 words. And as long as I have that, the middle for me is just playtime.
Mhm.
And then I'll extend that out. So I'll do the same thing and I'll map out chapter 6, 7, and 8. I usually don't go farther than that, though I already know the ending. And I know generally where it's going to be going after that. It's sort of like I think it was Neil Gaiman. It was like kind of like flashlight in the dark sort of thing. Like I can see ahead a little bit. Like I know where I'm going. I just don't know exactly what's past there.
Mhm.
But I never start writing a project unless I know the ending and I know the beginning.
Mhm.
I have to know where I'm starting and I have to know what's going to wrap it up. And then I'll do 3 chapters at a time. So if I map out, roughly, and I just write like a paragraph basically at the top that's just like, set aside. And it's like in this chapter, like Alex starts here. He's got to do this, this, and this. Andromeda does this, this, and this. Toshiro does this. Chapter ends when this happens.
Mhm.
Right. And I'll do that for like 6, 7, and 8. And then when I'm working on chapter 6, I go back, I do some 10, 15 minutes of editing on chapter 5. I reread it. I write chapter 6. Now I've got 7 and 8 done. I go to 9 and I'm like, okay, 9 should probably look like this at this point. And so I just sort of do it in those stages of 3 as I go through. That's not to speak on like editing and everything else. I am an adverb annihilator. I annihilate just about every single adverb outside of dialogue. You won't find them. I think that's part of just how I like to write too, because I like to write descriptively. I would rather show how somebody's nervous than say he did something nervously.
Yeah.
I have my own techniques there to just polish up. And I think all of these things together sort of form my style, in a way.
A lot of your techniques actually overlap with ones that I use. I'm a little bit more of a structured outliner. Like, I don't start a novel until I have at least a skeletal outline going.
Yep.
But right down to going to the coffee shop and just taking each day and planning out what I'm going to do in little chunks. I mean, yeah, it's a really handy technique.
It's, you know what, it keeps me on the path that I'm supposed to be on, but it allows that brain that's just like, hey, I just had this really stupid idea. How do I work it in? And you're going to find that actually when you get Space Pew Pew, when you get the full thing, you're going to find that that's what happened with Dr. Dre. Okay. Because Dr. Dre's referenced in the book. And there was this moment that I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what would be hilarious? Dr. Dre and Space Pew Pew, right? Like some kind of a reference, because I'm big on pop culture references and stuff like that. You probably saw the you saw the Tommy Two-Tone reference. 8675E09 is the ship's call sign. You know, stuff like that. So like I'm really big on those. And I was like, how can I work Dr. Dre into Space Pew Pew? And that was one of the ones. I'm like, this may turn into an extra chapter. I don't care. I was having a blast.
Those are my favorites. Oh my gosh.
Yes, exactly.
The random ideas always end up being the best ones.
It's so wonderful when that kind of thing hits and you're excited to write it.
Yep.
You know, so I spent a day researching Dre. Like, what am I even doing? What is my life right now? And I'm like, I'm going through his discography. I'm going through lyrics. I'm like, I'm picking out all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, like I'm going to have a good time with this. And sure enough, I did. It was one of my favorite chapters to write. So yeah. 28, I think is what I ended up landing on, or so it's about 75,000 words.
Nice.
Yeah. Book 2 is probably going to shape up to be about the same, maybe a little bit more.
Got some comments here. The Angel of Death says we need David Attenborough to do the documentary on Writers in the Wild.
The wily lop-eared writer. That would be really good.
Observes, I think adverbs really make the dialogue flow clunkily. They really do.
Well, that's good. I see what you did there.
Yes.
Delayed the next episode. Stop it.
Oh my gosh! Oh man, it is almost 9 o'clock. We have filled a full hour.
Time flies.
Late anyway, but yeah. So we will start wrapping this up. But this has been a super fun interview
for sure.
So, before we finish up, anything else you want to tell us about the Space Pew Pew Kickstarter other than go pledge?
Look, if you can go and if you have pledged, check and see what add-ons are unlocked. Like that's an important one to just see if there's something else that you'd like to add and put on there. If there's something you would like that I would be able to turn around quickly, I'm all for it. Just shoot me a message. You know, whether it's a space capybara poster or like, you know, anything weird like that. And otherwise, you know, if you if you hit my YouTube channel as well, you'll see I've got some recorded sections. We recorded some of my reading at LibertyCon when I had the packed room. So part of that chapter 13 is on there and some of the gags and whatnot. And you can hear people rolling in that. It was good. So, you know, if you need a little bit of flavor for it, and otherwise just, you know, follow me on the things, you know, and if you miss out on the Kickstarter, you miss out. We're looking at pushing the book out probably late November, I think is the most likely scenario.
Now, will it also get a release like traditionally on Amazon, or is it Kickstarter only?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that, and if I can get the audiobook wrapped up by then, it should be like I'm hoping to have simultaneous with like ebook and paperback and audio. And then next my goal next year at LibertyCon is to have a big old poster on Author's Alley that says Space Pew Pew 2 Electric Pupiloo, because that's the name of the second one. So I've got names for 10 books written out, excellent. And they're all so stupid. Yeah. So that's how I work. But that's it. I appreciate the support. I'm just trying to figure my stuff out. You know, I wrote one book that was urban fantasy that was a bit more serious. I got a following, you know, a little bit of a following from there. I still have people asking me to write the second book, and this one was published in 2020, which is like, I'm working on it. I've got a contract through Three Avens for book 2 on that one. And yeah. Oh, Did you freeze? Oh no. Oh no, am I here by myself? Oh, this is terrible. Hi everybody. Welcome to the stream. How's everybody doing? Can somebody comment? Is this like frozen or did this end? Say something. Say whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's me that conked out of here. I gotta see if did you poof or did I poof? Well, hi. All right, so there's a comment at least. Oh, okay, so she's frozen. Oh, so hey everybody. Yeah, this is good. This is pirate stream. I'm into it. So let's talk about something really, really important. I'm gonna the history of the toilet plunger. We're gonna go through the whole. I'm doing well. How are you? I don't know if she can come back onto her own stream.
She's frozen. You're fine.
Yeah, no, I got that. I'm seeing comments. I'm like, that's fine. I'm with you, but she's frozen. Yeah, all right. I mean, does anybody have any questions or anything? Like, do you want me to? Everyone should hit Kickstarter, rocking the Space Pew Pew t-shirt at LibertyCon next year. Yep, thank you, Philip. I'll be wearing my cheese shirt next year as well. So I'm big into the cheese thing and all that. I don't know. Any other questions or anything like that? I can bounce if you guys just don't want to see me on here. Oh, there we go.
Hello! My main computer totally just crapped out on me.
I was like, pirate takeover. This is so great.
Sorry about that, everyone. I hate my desktop so much. Like it's gonna be the beginning of my villain arc, I swear. But yes, luckily my laptop was ready to go. So
there you go.
Where were we? We were closing up anyway.
I was about to give everybody the history of the toilet plunger. Like I was looking for some kind of a thing just to, keep them very entertained.
We can talk about that. Or I was going to ask if you're doing any conventions or any other appearances where people can come meet you or get books signed or just generally say hey and talk about penis jokes or anything like that. You got anything coming up?
So the only thing coming up is LibertyCon next year.
Okay.
That's it for me. I was looking at some of the other ones. I know, but it's just like geographically, it's very difficult. The Northeast is like a desert in terms of like writing cons and everything else. We have Rhode Island Comic Con, which is huge. Mm-hmm. And I know Canon Publishing, John Holmes, right? He wants to start a con in Albany, New York. Ooh. And see if we can get something like going in the Northeast and cooking, but like that's a couple years out. So I'm not sure about Imaginarium next year. I might have to go back because I had the most epic chicken sandwich in Louisville. That I really
is motivation enough.
Go back for and plus like Waffle House. So like there's a reason to go. But certainly LibertyCon. Somebody mentioned MarsCon is a good one. I think it's in Virginia.
MarsCon's a fun one.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon is just like it's gigantic and terrifying. So like I don't know if I want to subject myself to that.
DragonCon, DragonCon is an experience.
That's what everybody says. So, but for anything and really for anyone, and one of the things, actually, I would really just like a moment to say this. So like I have been there as the writer that thought that I'm not a writer or not good enough or, have that imposter syndrome, didn't know what to do, didn't know who to talk to or ask questions to or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So one of my things just personally is if there's ever somebody out there that's working on their own writing, I'm not an expert, but I've done a lot and I've done a lot of marketing and I've done a lot on like YouTube and just getting myself out there and making the words work. My debut novel was just all me, except for I hired an editor and I hired a cover designer, but all of the marketing, everything ground up, nobody else involved. And that one nearly 1,000 copies sold on it, which is pretty unheard of for just nobody in their first book. So like I've been through this, I've also written nonfiction. We've got that book coming out this year as well. Mm-hmm. So if anybody is ever just in that frame of mind of like, I don't have a lot of direction. I've got some writing down, but I don't know if it's good enough, so on and so forth. Like if you have questions, if you need help, like I'm always available. So I'm like on all the socials and all you got to do is hit me up and just be like, hey, you know, like I just had a conversation with a couple people recently about this, where it's like, you know, like how do I get myself out there a little bit more? You know, what can I do? And it's like, look, I can try and help, you know? So I'm always happy to talk shop. I guess that's like kind of what it's, you know, what it comes down to, and give some guidance, because like I had a hard time getting that myself. And I know what it's like when you don't really want to reach out to other people. So,
oh yeah. And especially for introverted authors too. I mean, a lot of us are like, I can fake extroversion really well to
yeah,
the point where I found my author community thinks that I'm an extrovert and I'm just not. I just,
yeah,
I turn myself on for cons and for interviews, but then the rest of the time I just want to go like hide under my blanket and then not talk to anybody.
yeah, right, right. Well, you see, okay, so there you go. Like I can vouch, you spent over an hour helping
Yes.
me one day with website stuff. Like that's, but you see, that makes me really, really happy. You know,
Yeah.
that's like, I enjoy doing that. And I enjoy just like, you know, because like, I don't see writers or authors as competitors. We're not competing against anything. If you write a funny book and I write a funny book, we've got a market. And
Yeah.
somebody might be finding mine can find yours. It's not like they're going to read just one of them. Like
Yeah.
we're not football teams, you
I
know?
always get really excited whenever people write books similar to mine because
Right.
I'm a slower writer than I want to be, even though
Same
I
here.
write pretty fast by some people's standards. And I love it when people release stuff similar to mine because I can go say, "Hey, while I'm working on this, go read this other thing."
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, stop bothering me. Go read this other
Yeah.
book.
I'll be back in a year. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
No, I get it. I get it.
We got a question from John. How can I finish my stories without actually
Oh,
writing
yeah,
them?
that's good. You
Can we
know,
figure that out?
TikTok and interpretive dance, maybe like there's an idea in there somewhere.
Yes, there are other ways of telling stories, but
Right.
we only know the writing ones. Yes. All right. Well, this has been a fun hour, even with the chaos of me disappearing, though honestly, again,
So on brand.
that's kind of on brand for this
Yep.
entire topic.
Yep.
So thank you for joining me. This has been a whole lot of fun. And thank you everybody for watching. You had a whole bunch of fun comments and questions and everything.
So let's do it again
And
on my channel. Let's do it
and
again.
do what?
We'll do it
Okay.
again on my channel. I'm gonna
Yes.
pull you over to mine, and then I get to structure it in like the mad scientist way and put you through stuff. And it's gonna be super fun.
Yes, absolutely. I will absolutely appear on your channel. But until then,